Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for September 2nd, 2022. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also present is a small group today of regulars, Ralph Kohler, who's sharing his screen, Aaron McHale, and Simo Helston. So Ralph, what issue are we looking at?
It's issue, oops, 1 second, I have to.
It's 3293855. I can help out that much.
No, I just have to start my do not disturb mode, otherwise notifications come in and might disturb. Yeah, it's issue number 3293855. It's the user help text for user admin permissions is outdated. That's an issue we discovered in the course of another issue that was brought up during the Austin Drupal Dojo. That's also an issue we've talked about 2 weeks ago, the prevent accidental logouts on the role settings page and clarify the corresponding description for its select box. Yeah, that was the right one. And it was the issue number 3293874. And for the context, I have also an installation 9.5 spun up. And there on the permissions page, you have the description, help text, permissions, let you control what users can do and see on your site. You can define a specific set of permissions for each role. See the roles page for to create a role. Any permissions granted to the authenticated user role will be given to any user who is logged into your site. From the account settings page, you can make any role into an administrator role for the site, meaning that role will be granted all new permissions automatically. You should be careful to ensure that only trusted users are given this access and level of control of your site. And as you see, in I guess it was 9.3, previously those role settings were on the account settings page and got moved to the role settings action tab. But yeah, it turned out that on the permissions page in the help text, there's still those 2 sentences pointing to the old location. So it's outdated and not correct anymore, and yeah, rather confusing. We already came up with 2 possible resolutions. Option A would be just to strike the last 2 sentences, because basically that page is about permissions and not about the roles. So if you try to keep that help text in scope, it might be worth a thought completely remove those 2 lines, sentences. Or the other option, option B, is to change the link from admin config people accounts to admin people role settings. Yeah, that would be the less invasive and less change. And for that, we already created an issue fork and merge request with a proposal. Changing from the account settings page, you can make any role into an administrator role for the site, meaning that role will be granted all new permissions automatically. Change to on the role settings page, you can make any role into an administrator role for the site, meaning that role will be granted all permissions. Yeah, that's it from my end. Any thoughts?
Let me just call out one part of that change. That role will be granted all permissions is your proposed text, and you're leaving out the word new because in fact that the word new is also incorrect.
Yeah, true. That's true.
And I think if you can you go back to the window where you have the site installed.
Yeah.
If you open up the role settings tab, the help text here also incorrectly says, in fact, that is a full sentence that is incorrect, as well as saying new permissions.
Yep. But that is in the scope of another issue. But indeed, it's also not correct.
Okay, so I think the question of scope is debatable. It could be done on either one of these issues.
Mhm.
Yeah, this issue is smaller in scope, so it's, I think it'll be easier to get it completed than the one we looked at a few weeks ago. Okay, questions, comments?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy with I think with either option. I guess the only thing that's in my head is one of the, and you know, like, feel free to completely disregard this for this issue because we haven't done this yet. But one of the intentions behind the role settings page is it could have settings for other roles in the future. Like you could maybe just tell it which role the authenticated user role is, or anonymous, rather than those being hard coded. So maybe we want to consider that at least. Well, it's not there now, so maybe we don't have to consider that for the help text here. But I wonder if we did consider it, if that would change what we're proposing. Again, I hadn't really thought that through, but I just thought it was worth mentioning for context.
I sort of prefer the smaller change, just fixing the things that are actually wrong rather than removing text.
Right.
And that's, I think, consistent with your comment, Aaron, that there may be other changes coming down the line, and that will be the appropriate place to consider larger changes. But I would say for this issue, let's just change the link from account settings to role settings. Remove the word new. I think those are the only changes needed on that page. And I think it makes sense to update the help text on the role settings page at the same time as part of the same issue.
Does the role settings page have any help text? I don't remember if we added anything. Okay, no, it just has a description there for that one.
That's what I meant. That description text.
Oh, okay.
And I guess for the sake of the recording, I should read the full text there. This role will be automatically assigned new permissions whenever a module is enabled. Changing this setting will not affect existing permissions. That entire second sentence should be removed because it's not true. And the word new that I emphasized should be removed, which will be consistent with the changes we're making on the other tab.
It also implies that the role won't be given any permissions initially if we use the word new, which is not true because when you set that role, I believe it automatically then has all of the permissions by the fact that it becomes the administrator role.
Yes, that is the way it works. I'm quite sure of that.
Yeah. So I think the word new could be problematic.
Yeah, and in the context of the other page, that's what I called out, that Ralph's proposed text did strike the word new.
Yeah.
And that's the right thing to do.
I see in the issue summary. Oh no, sorry. I just reread it. Option B is throwing me slightly because there's like two. There's almost looks like there's two proposals in option B, but I think it's just stating what's already there. Then it's saying what we should change it to.
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
previous state at first, and then what is changed.
Oh, right. Okay, I get you. Okay.
So basically, it should be just extended to adding the description on the row settings page as well.
Right. So do we have consensus on going with option B?
I think so.
Okay. Oh, hi, Emily has joined us. So Emily, I think we're just wrapping up the discussion of this issue. Aaron gives a thumbs up. I agree. I think Simo, you just said you agree. Okay, so that looks like consensus. And do we have consensus on, as part of the same issue, updating the description text on the role settings page? Thumbs up from Aaron. Thumbs up from Simo.
Also
I
thumbs
believe
up
we
from
should do
me.
it. Okay, great. So as Ralph promised, that was a relatively short issue. And Ralph, you'll update the issue with a comment?
Yes,
on our
I will.
Great.
I will. Thank you. Oops, stop share. No.
Okay. So shall we continue the discussion from last week? And if so, who wants to share a screen? I can if no one else wants to.
I guess one of the requirements, Emily, did you get a chance to do any mock-ups of what a potential UI could look like for the layout builder issue we looked at last week?
I didn't get a chance to work on mockups this week.
Okay. I suppose we could still talk about it because there's a slightly different group here, or at least we have Benji. So, or we could also just briefly look at the issue that I mentioned earlier, which is hopefully again will be another quick one.
I'd kind of like to look at the layout builder issue. Shall I share my
Yeah.
screen?
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Just give me a minute to find the right window. I think this is it.
And I'm happy to read the notes that I had from last week, if you like.
Okay, so this is issue 2980299. Layout builder cannot be uninstalled while overrides exist. No easy way to revert all overrides. So go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so last week we were not able to come to a consensus and agreed to bring this issue back at this week's meeting. We wordsmithed some text changes, and as we discussed, Emily agreed to work on some mock-ups as to how we might arrange the layout builder section of the managed display form. So some of the text changes we discussed included shortening the revert button text to simply revert layout overrides, and reorganizing the text on the confirm form, specifically removing are you sure you want to text from the page content next to this action cannot be undone. Specifically moving the text are you sure you want to from the page content next to this action cannot be undone, so that it would read, are you sure you want to proceed? This action cannot be undone, thus making the title shorter and easier to parse. However, we agreed that a change like that should be done to all of the confirmed forms because we're following a standard pattern here. So that change like that we would want to do that in a separate issue if we were to go ahead with that.
I think it's not the default, but the
Yeah, if
full
you go to like full
content theme.
content, there you go. Yeah, we we played around with this last week. Oh, do you have do you have the patch applied? I
No.
don't think you do. Okay, that's a possibly a problem.
Also, so is this the form we're talking about?
So there was in the issue, there's a new confirm form that's added, which allows you to revert all of the overrides. So essentially to trigger this issue, what you want to do is go into a piece of content, like maybe one of the recipes, and override the layout. So like the way I did it is I just added a block to one of the recipe pieces of content, and that will trigger the problem at least. So if you just go to like one of the layer tab for any of the recipe content, and then if you like just add a block anywhere to override the default layout.
Layout for this content item, which is what I want to do. And add a block. Some silly change. Oh, right, not at the bottom, but at the top of the page is the same layout.
And now if you go back to the Manage Display tab, and if you go back there, you should see.
I think this is recipe.
Okay, so this is where the problem we hit up against, where it doesn't tell you it just tells you that overrides exist, and then you can't disable layout builder, and it doesn't tell you where those overrides are, and it doesn't give you the option to revert those overrides here. So the issue is trying to add, I guess, adding a button and a confirm step that would allow you to then, from this screen, remove all overrides and then allow you to turn off layout builder or turn off the ability to have overrides.
Right. It's sort of odd that currently the only place the message appears is the description of these two disabled form elements. You must revert all customized layouts of this display before you can disable this option.
Right.
So what shall we do? Shall we look at the screenshots on the issue, or?
Yeah, that's a good idea. They don't totally, the screenshots were taken with, I believe, I want to say it was like, yeah. So one of the things that the screenshots don't illustrate, because they were taken with the 7 admin theme, is in Olivero, what looks like a link there is rendered as actually a big red button. And it's a really big, long button. Whereas in
Yeah,
the,
so
in the 7
it
admin
certainly
themes-
becomes the main CTA on the page, or it looks like it.
Yeah.
This red link down here.
Yeah.
Let me open the screenshot in a separate tab. So it says disable layout builder for this display and revert all layout overrides. And you're saying that that looks even more prominent and scary
Yeah.
in Claro.
It's also technically not true because all the button does is remove the overrides. It only does the second thing. It doesn't actually disable layout builder. You still have to then, it still takes you back here where you can uncheck the layout builder boxes at that point. So,
Okay, so the
yeah.
workflow with the patch is you click the link, you got a confirmation form, you submit the confirmation form, you come back here, you no longer see this link. These two options are no longer disabled, and then you continue.
Correct.
Okay.
So, yeah,
so
one
what,
of the proposals was just shorten the text of the button to revert. Hang on. Did we say?
well, shorter and more accurate sounds like a double win to me.
Yeah, so we discussed shortening it to just say revert layout overrides.
So that seems to me like a good idea. What are the arguments against doing that?
I think we were all in agreement on that one.
Okay.
The big question was also, is that the right place for the button? And is the text on the next page the most accurate and helpful?
Yeah, I think as well, because at that point you've got like 3 buttons on, well, maybe more than 3 buttons on that page actually, depending on. Yeah, so you've got like the manage layout button, the save button, and this big scare, what in Claro looks like a big scary button. So there's a lot of, like, as Emily said earlier, there's a lot of call to actions going on there, and we've got these like disabled checkboxes. So that's kind of where we landed on last week, because we thought it might be good to try and redesign what that experience looks like. One thing I'm wondering, now that we're revisiting this and I've had a sort of chance to digest it more, is do we even need the checkboxes? Like, if you're in this situation, the checkboxes are completely, like, you can't do anything with them. So would it be cleaner if we just didn't have the checkboxes, but we had some text explaining, what the description text on the checkboxes is essentially explaining?
From other discussions that disabled form elements are a really bad idea for accessibility purposes. Emily, can you confirm that?
Yes, I think if we, I think that if we, sorry, my dog's barking.
Your dog has really strong feelings about disabled form elements. Really.
Yeah, I never thought a corgi would be so good at the barking thing.
So,
Okay, sorry about that. So I do think that if we made that more clear, because right now, yeah, the disabled elements are a little confusing, and then the large red button right after doesn't provide the best experience.
so let's see, I think I have just applied the patch. So let me see if I reload this page. There we go.
Yay, big button.
So let me just use the browser tools to make the change that everyone agrees on. Um, so I can disable layout. There we go. That seems like a big improvement to me. So I guess rather than disabling the form, the suggestion is that we put in a paragraph of text saying, I guess we want to, I mean,
Yeah, so
I guess
maybe-
there's information in these disabled form elements. And
Right.
I guess the only way we get into this situation is if both of them have been checked, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we want to replace that with a paragraph saying that layout builder is enabled and customizations are allowed and there are overrides present. Text to be determined, but some paragraph of text with the big red button. So let's see what confirmation form looks like. Oh, there's no confirmation form. What?
There should be. You might need to clear your cache because I think it adds a new route.
You think I didn't clear the cache first time? I will try it anyway. Click the button. There we go. That's what expected to happen.
Yeah, so I think one of this issue kind of the way it creates this confirm form, it kind of highlights a somewhat of a problem with these confirm forms and the way they're structured in that a lot of the information is put into the title of the form, which I can see that might look okay when it's presented in a model, but I mean, by default, we don't do that. And then you just get a very small amount of text in the content. So I guess we're thinking like for this pattern for these confirm forms, should we flip it around so more of the information is in the content and less is in the title?
that seems like a reasonable suggestion. But it also seems like I think you already said that it might not be in scope for this issue. Well, let me just
Right.
also say that Offer Shah has joined us. Thank you. And Offer, we are discussing this issue.
Yeah, I see. I think it was either last week or before.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I guess I can. Oh, it's actually a button. It's not a link, so I can't open them in separate windows easily.
I guess it should actually be a link and not a button. I didn't realize that because we're going to another page.
I guess in the current implementation, we actually have a form here with these two disabled elements, and that makes this a form element. And the proposal would change that so that we wouldn't have a form at all, and then it would make more sense for it to be a link.
So I'm currently working on some possible text that we could do. Bear with me a second. Okay, so I just put a suggestion in the chat. Something like that. I'm thinking. And again, I'm sure we could like figure out a way to shorten that more, but that's just like a first pass at what we're trying to convey, I think.
But I think this is good enough for discussion. Layout Builder is enabled, and some content items have their layouts customized. You used the British spelling with the S. You must revert all
Yes, I
layout
did.
overrides before Layout Builder can be disabled for this content type.
So just to clarify, so the content item and content type are in brackets because I imagine that would be substituted for whatever the entity calls their content items and content types. So that's why there's square brackets. But also it's technically on the display mode. So even what I've just written is not technically accurate because we would be disabling it for the full, was it the full content display mode of this content type?
So what's the inaccuracy?
So like the last part where I said layout builder can be disabled for this content type, it's technically for this like view mode or this display mode that we can
Right,
revert and disable.
the full content.
Yeah, it wouldn't impact other display modes like teaser, for instance.
Okay, and one little thing to note is that revert all layout overrides is consistent with the current text on the button, which will be a link, so that makes sense. And Ralph says in the chat he agrees we should be explicit about the view mode.
And one question, I'm not sure or wonder if using and some content items, if that is too bloaty or would it be just enough layout borders enabled and the layout for this view mode has been customized or something like that? Because is it necessary to add those content items?
We have to convey the information that individual entities have overrides.
Here is an alternative.
Well, let me just give my suggestion. How about adding to the first sentence, layout builders enabled, and some content items have their layouts customized. Oh, layout builders enabled for this view mode, and some content items have their layouts customized. And then in the second sentence, rather than saying all layout overrides, you must revert these overrides before layout builder can be disabled. And then maybe just say for this view mode, although I guess we don't use view mode in the in the user interface. And let's see, you just gave me some alternative text to try. Let me paste that in. It was HTML. Enabled for this view mode, and content items are allowed to have custom layouts. Before Layout Builder can be disabled, you must revert layout overrides for this view mode.
I think it's
And Emily also, oh, that was Emily's suggestion that I just pasted in. Go ahead,
Yep.
Aaron.
well, I was just gonna say, I think so this is triggered if at least one content item has overridden the layout. So technically speaking, it's not explicitly that content items are allowed to have their layouts customized. It's that at least one content item has already customized its layout.
Yeah,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I prefer the first version where it says some items have their layouts customized. It's already been done, not just that they're allowed to. And the fact that they're allowed to is implied by the fact that it has been done.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just trying to reflect both of the options that would be disabled, mostly in case people were reading documentation, telling them what to look for. And so they would see, okay, so layout builder is enabled and content items are allowed to have overrides, but I think you're right that it is implied from the other text.
Yeah, and sort of the basic usability questions are we telling them what the situation is? Are we telling them how to fix it? And I think some version of this text meets those criteria.
I would prefer on the second sentence, at least to start with before layout builder can be disabled instead of starting with you must revert. Because I think it clarifies the action that someone would want to take that would cause them to need to revert instead of telling them to revert first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
You must revert layout overrides for this view mode. Before layout builder can be disabled. So like that. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think you got it wrong way around, Benji.
Oh, sorry.
It was before layout builder can be disabled, then you must revert layout overrides for this view mode. I think that was the one that Emily proposed.
Right. So that's what I just replaced. So I'm going back to the original thing that I copied from the chat. So Emily, you were suggesting some change. So what change were you suggesting?
I was suggesting so that the top text where it says you must revert all layout overrides before layout builder can be disabled. I was suggesting that we change that to before layout builder can be disabled, you must revert all layout overrides for this content type. So just switching the two parts of the sentence. So starting with the before.
Okay, I think that's what I did and then undid.
Oh, sorry, I thought you might, were you editing the second paragraph? I thought you were editing the second one, maybe you were editing the first one.
I was editing the second one.
Oh yeah, I was proposing that if we were going with the text in the first one, that we would edit the second sentence.
Okay, so start the sentence with before layout builder can be disabled. You put a period at the end. And capitalize the start.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess let's take a quick overview. So we already agreed on shortening this text. Should we shorten it further and remove the word all?
I think so. I think because we're not on a specific content type, it's pretty or content piece, it's pretty obvious that that means all of them for this specific view mode. And that removing that would remove the anxiety that an editor might have that it'll remove all layout overrides throughout the whole site. Because with the text all, I could see that being a little confusing.
Yeah, and any other opinions? Offer has to leave. Thanks for joining us. Any other opinions on keeping or removing the word all? Give me a thumbs up if you want to remove the word all. Ralph gives a thumbs up. Everyone agrees. Okay, so we should shorten it even further.
Should we also do that for the text that we were discussing? Because I think that's an important point, Emily, you made about like we don't know what all the word all could imply for someone reading this. And maybe if we're explicit about this is like, you know, we're on a content type, we're on a view mode, like maybe we don't even need the word all at all.
Yeah, and I think it also helps to keep the text in the paragraph consistent with the text on the button. But maybe we can borrow for this view mode.
I like that.
All right, I would like to think of some further changes to the text, but before going there, so we have consensus on the shorter text for the link or the button. We're going to have some sort of paragraph instead of the disabled form. And then we still have to think about what is in scope for changing the confirmation form. Is that all that's left, or are there additional decisions to be made?
I think that the confirmation form I would definitely have in a separate issue, because I wouldn't want this issue to deviate from what is the standard in core. And so if we were to make that change, I would want to do it for all of the confirm forms, basically, so that we continue to have a consistent pattern.
Information form will mostly leave alone, although if we're changing the text on the button, we'll probably want to, or we might want to change
Oh, I see what you mean.
title there.
Yeah, so like the bits that we have control over, we should, the things that are specific to this. But I was thinking of the suggestion from a while ago about rearranging a form, which we definitely should do in a different issue.
Okay. Oh, and Ralph has a comment in the chat. With all, my association would be all view modes for the content type. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Ralph. And you are muted.
It was, I wrote it when we discussed the removal of the word all, or what the association of the word all could imply. And my association with a beginner's mind would be all could refer to all view modes for a content type. So it isn't only for that view mode the user is currently in, clicking that, but that revert all means then for all view modes for the content type.
Mean all view modes for all content types. So
No, all view modes for that particular content type the user currently is in. That is meant with that.
okay.
Therefore, a +1 again for removal of the all, of the word
Okay.
all.
Okay, so then I guess the main remaining question is to finalize this text.
So
Right. Go ahead.
yeah, so I'm looking at text again, and so we finish it with you must revert layout overrides for this view mode, and that's fine, I think. The button says revert layout overrides. Now, so that we ensure the connection between the text and the button, do we want then the button to also say revert layout overrides for this view mode? Now, I know that makes it longer, but it just also ensures there's no separation there between what the button's going to do and what the user expects it might do.
Good question, but first let's think about the phrase view mode. Is that something that we use in the interface text?
It's up there where it says at the top of the paragraph, content items can be down. Yep, right there.
Okay,
Different modes.
we do use view mode there, and I think also structure, display modes, view modes. We use it in the admin menu. Okay, so view mode is a technical term, but it's one that's appropriate in this context. I'll also think of the user of this page is a site administrator, not a content editor. So, okay, so I was worried about view mode, but I guess it's okay. And then Aaron's question, do we want to make the text longer again by adding back for this view mode? Or does the paragraph text here give enough context that we can have the shorter button or link?
Yeah, so I think that the button being shorter is fine here because you know that the check boxes and everything that you're selecting is related to this specific view mode. So I think it's okay to not clarify in the button that is for this view mode.
Okay. Other opinions?
I think
Ralph gives a +1 for the shorter button. Go ahead, Aaron.
yeah, I was gonna say I think that makes sense, and we do also have the confirm form step to be super clear before the user confirms the action. So you know what? Yeah, it's probably the shorter text is probably good.
Okay, just a second. I'm working on another alternative for the text. I think that'll do it. Expect HTML. There we go. So this third option is mine. So from the second option, I took the for this view mode and added that in the same place in the first sentence. But I kept the and some content items have the layout customized from the first one. And then I shortened the second sentence. The first sentence already says layout builder for this view mode. So I just said these overrides. So I guess my version is slightly shorter than the other two. I actually have a pretty bad track record for getting people to agree to my wording in these meetings. What do you think of this one?
I really like it. I think it's short,
Oh.
but it still keeps the I like the word these because it keeps that association.
Okay, and Emily and Ralph also give a +1 in the chat. Yay.
I reacted with a heart, but I don't think you saw my heart.
Oh no, I missed it. Oh, and Simo gives a thumbs up. Okay. So we're making progress and we have consensus. Oh, but we are also just a minute away from the hour, and I of course want to respect everyone's time. So so we're close here. And who would like to put this into comment on the issue?
I can type it up.
Great, thank you, Emily. Since we're about to end the meeting, I just copied that text. I will paste it into the Slack channel.
Thank you.
Great, and thank you for joining us and for volunteering to post that comment. And we'll do this again next week.
Okay. I guess, do we want to bring this up again next week just to do one last pass at the confirm form, or are we happy to leave a comment now?
If we can handle it in comments on the issue, let's do that. If necessary, we can revisit it next week.
Okay, fair.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, nice weekend.
Thanks. Thanks, Benji. Thanks, everyone.